Maybe she doesn't have a microphone? Oh, she doesn't have any sound at all.
There is a settings button. Try that. See if you can.
Can you hear us, JD? Okay. Up at the top, you'll see the microphone. That may be red. It says mute. If you unclick that, it should remove your mute.
If you've got a microphone.
There's a bar with the camera and a microphone.
Not working. Oh, well.
There is a chat box that you can get to from the upper left side of your screen. There's a flyout menu. And if you go into the chat, we can try to help you.
There you go.
Great.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Bill Naiman's Bogus Hangout. We're trying to help a new participant in the group participate and get her settings right and be able to talk. Right now, she's muted. It's a Microsoft Google battle issue. Sometimes they don't play well together. I hate to say this because I don't want you to leave, but sometimes leaving and then coming back in solves some problems.
Turning off Skype is a good idea.
Okay. Well, we're going to have people introduce themselves. Doc?
Hi, everybody. Doc Sheldon, Intrinsic Value SEO and Search News Central. And what have I been around this last few days? I'm working on some multilingual sites and building a new site for a client. And enjoying the fact that California has just signed a new law into effect that is essentially a carbon copy of GDPR, and wondering how fast other states in the U.S. are going to follow suit. So winter is coming, folks.
I missed California doing that. Wow. Tim?
Tim Calling, a Servant's Heart Web Design and Marketing. Yeah, I don't think you want to get me started on California legislation, and it ain't going to be pretty.
Gonna wind you up here, buddy.
Yeah, don't poke the bear. Let's see. So I've been working on a couple of things. I'm doing a rebuild of the site for a client, replacing a site we made for them a while back. What else? Continuing to build tools for a client that has an online learning site. That's always interesting, considering that the LMS we're using doesn't have an API. It's always an adventure in website land. So keeps me out of the bars.
Well, that's depressing.
That's all I got, guys.
All right, Terry, introduce yourself.
Well, you just introduced me. I'm Terry. Terry Van Horn, SEO Training Dojo, SEO Pros and International Website Builders. This week I've been working on some video and finished implementing event markup on my on a website, and was able to get it to actually validate, which if you're going to use it, that's usually the best way to do it. It was a little bit more than I thought it would be. And some of the warnings that the Google tool gives are not very good in that, not every event is going to have an image and not every event is going to cost money. So you don't need images or authors on that. So hopefully a warning isn't going to hurt it. But got all the rest of it right, which is important. And that's about it for this week for me.
I hope that works out.
Oh, I do too.
Yeah.
Because the client paid me and they're usually not too happy if it doesn't.
Yeah. Well, you gotta start somewhere. You gotta learn sometime, right?
Yeah, well, it worked out pretty good. So
yeah,
hopefully it draws some traffic and get more events scheduled at the center.
Mm-hmm. And I am Bill Slosky. I am the author at SEO by the Sea, and I am the director of SEO research at Go Fish Digital. And we haven't been able to get JD on, but hopefully she'll be able to, like she says in chat, learn something today and maybe rejoin us in a week. I hope. Okay, so I shouldn't poke the bear. California legislature, I've seen there are ways to set resolutions. Sometimes they look like they're governing a foreign country, like plans to divide California into 12 parts or 3 parts or...
The People's Republic of California?
Right.
Let me just say this. I lived for a year in Argentina, and I can tell you there are places that are politically more immature than California, just not very many of them.
So what are the requirements to come up with one of these resolutions? Do you have to be a native of the state?
No, actually, I think it's the air. Even the most sane person after 6 to 8 months begins to degenerate.
And I've lived here for 65 years. Oh my. No, it's never dull. Never dull. Actually, you know what though? I would say, number one, it's not surprising that the U.S. would eventually adopt as a whole something like the GDPR, and it's not surprising that it would be state by state, really, and it's not surprising that California would be one of the first.
Yeah. Actually, I think in some regard it makes more sense that it be state driven. I think the federal have already overstepped too much, and B, they're like Microsoft. They tend to screw up everything they touch eventually.
Well, it's on the one hand, I do like, from a policy standpoint, the idea of protecting state rights, but it does make for a patchwork of rules and regulations that we have to follow then if we have a business like all of ours that works with people in different states and even different countries. So it makes things more complicated.
I do like when the federal government has committee meetings live on C-SPAN, and they talk about things like the internet and the collection of tubes and wires that make it up. They don't seem to have much of a grasp of how it really works at all.
Yeah.
That doesn't stop them from trying to run it, though.
Right.
Well, they've got all the power they need. They can do whatever they want. I would say that if you want an example of what it looks like to have different state laws in a particular domain, I'd refer you to state sales tax laws. I know people that make a full-time living just as sales tax accountants for big companies that have multi-state, operations.
But they're often usually model laws that come out that states can model their state law after, like the UCC.
So, Bill, you know more about commercial law than I do, but
Yeah.
I know a fair amount about state sales tax laws. I'm not I'm not an expert, and it's been 25 or 30 years since I did any sales tax work professionally. But I don't know if there's a model law now or if there was then for sales tax, but I'm not sure it really mattered because they were all different. And I used to do sales tax returns for the when I was CFO for a chemical company for California, Texas, New Jersey, and I think it was Jersey, and one other state, I forget where. Now it was always amusing because some of them were fun. Like in Texas, you know how well you may not know, you probably know, when you report sales tax revenues in a lot of jurisdictions, you have to report it by city. Well, it's always fun looking at the sales tax return for Texas because they've got all these great names. Like, there's the ones that aren't unusual, like Amarillo or San Antonio, but there's also Cut and Shoot and Rattlesnake something. I forget what. But I was wondering what it looks like if you live in Cut and Shoot, Texas. It must be fun.
Rattlesnake Gulch.
Maybe, I forget. That's been a long time, believe me. Well, since the late 70s, actually. So this is the last time I did any honest work, probably when I worked in corporate accounting. So anyway. So, but
I had
I
a
think
discussion on Twitter, and people were talking about SEO industry as if it's got a bad reputation. Where did that come from?
Yeah. Who are you asking? Everyone?
Everyone, yeah. I mean, I responded, I'm proud to be an SEO.
I didn't see the conversation. I probably would have said that too.
Yeah.
Although I think what I would have said is that regardless of what you call it, our job is to get more revenue for our clients. And if you call it search engine optimization or marketing or left-handed drywall hanging, I don't care.
Wow. I always believed the reputation was earned, not by everybody, but it's earned by a few companies.
The bad reputation?
Yeah. Doesn't, like, here's the thing, 10 people, they'll talk about everything bad that happened. No one speaks about the good job that guys like us do. You only hear about the bad experiences.
That's very true.
And the thing is, it's very easy for a bad apple to in this business because the customers or our clients are not really knowledgeable enough to even be picking an SEO in most cases. I've learned this because that's for about almost 10 years now, I have worked with an organization that, when there's complaints, we hear about them often. And 9 times out of 10, you could tell the people were easily conned because they believed whatever the person told them. So, that's why I believe there should be like headhunters. If you're going to get SEO, almost get a headhunter or find somebody,
Somebody who's knowledgeable about the web.
Or had their own experience. The SEO Pros doesn't do that anymore. Probably will in the future when I have time to do it again. But also they get sold services that they don't really need. And there's a lot of that going on. And to me, that's bad SEO. Like people who sold service based on speed as a ranking factor. They cheated their customers quite often. So there isn't enough of that spoken about, in my opinion. If that should be something that the public is aware of, that if they try and sell you a service like that and you're not even ranking yet, they're probably someone that you can remove from the mix immediately.
We had a client who looked at their competitors' XML sitemaps and noticed that they were organized into categories. And they contacted us and tried to get us to do that. And I convinced them that there was no actual ranking benefit to doing that. That their competitors may have been doing that, but that doesn't mean their competitors were getting any actual benefit out of it.
Well, because basically, in my experience, from a sitemap, Google grabs a URL, and that's all about it really cares about. It doesn't care about how often you tell it to come back and refresh the crawl. None of that stuff matters. All that matters is that you have URLs that aren't blocked and aren't 404s. That's all that matters, i.e. a valid, and just because the sitemap validates doesn't mean it's good. It means it validates, doesn't mean that it's acceptable to Google. People have to realize if you're putting in blocked or 404s or anything that can't be indexed, Google calls that an error. So, just saying.
If somebody came to us and wanted to talk to us about possibly working with them, and I noticed that their sitemap had like categories as sub index or sub folders, one of the first things I would think of is that they're probably using the Yoast SEO plugin, because it does that.
What does a sitemap index?
Yeah.
And it creates lots of XML sitemaps on a site. And even though you can have a lot more URLs than it puts, it breaks them down into categories. It doesn't necessarily need to.
Yeah, and it puts stuff into indexes unnecessarily. In other words, I've seen like 3 sitemaps for 50 URLs. That's stupid.
You can't put up Yoast out of the box. I mean, you definitely have to get into the settings.
Yeah, you're an idiot to use Yoast, period. Sorry.
Okay,
because it does not handle duplicate titles in authors and all that other stuff. It does not handle it, period.
Not out of the box, no.
Okay, it also, on your sitemap, it does not, or in your robot's text, it does not put a link to the sitemap.
You may be right on that. I don't know.
Anyhow, every site I come to, the first thing I do is uninstall Yoast.
So I'll speak up in terms of one. Gosh, there's an echo. Is it something I'm doing?
Yeah, somebody's speakers are getting picked up by the mic.
Every time I say something, I hear it. My statement echoed 3 or 4 times, which scares the heck out of me. So
just stop now.
Yeah. I'm lazy. I think I've said that enough times. Maybe people believe it now. One of the things I like about the SEO plugin from Yoast, maybe I forget if this is in the premium version. If I delete, not so much, well, even if I delete a page or post, or if I rename it, it jumps up and says, wait a minute, let me handle that for you with a redirect. I know it's really lazy of me to like that, but God help me, I love that. It saves me from having to remember all that stuff and fixing it later. I turn off a lot of the other stuff in Yoast. But
yeah, there are definitely a number of aspects of Yoast that the default settings out of the box are counterproductive. But it can be dialed in to work well. It's just not out of the box. Your average mommy blogger better not just plug it in and activate it and figure everything's going to be fine, because you're going to be in major problems.
If I could find something that would handle the redirection issue for me on an automatic kind of a basis like that, a plug-in, I'd be sorely tempted then to get rid of Yoast.
I don't recall ever seeing anything that handled it automatically besides that. You might take a look at all-in-one SEO. That is a great plugin.
I have.
And I don't know, it might do it. I'm not sure.
I haven't looked at it for a while.
Doesn't do automatic redirect. I just put it in the 401 at the same time. Takes about 10 seconds.
I know. Like I said, I'm lazy, so.
Yeah.
I pay all my bills with auto pay.
Well, I'm just saying that.
Wait. What's this bill paying stuff? We're supposed to do that?
The biggest problem I have with Yoast is some of this code it writes. I don't think it's right. They do H names. I think it adds H names to pages.
I don't know about that.
In my experience, it doesn't do that properly.
Their quality's been off the last couple of years. They just had to release a fix for a bad earlier release. That what did it do? It messed with indexing links.
Attachment pages.
Attachment pages. Yeah. That's
yeah.
It was creating attachment pages for images.
Well, anyway, don't get me started.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I lost a client for a few months, and they installed that piece of crap. And now I keep getting all these 404 for attachment pages that never existed ever.
That would be it.
And now I know where they came from. They're all 410 now, but it's good to know where it came from.
You can. What he had in there, he had a setting where you could kill that. But the default setting is, most of the default settings in Yoast are backward.
Yes.
Yeah, and my biggest problem with it is no way to undo titles on all your archives, which is a big part of WordPress. So, and that's one of the areas in the Google Search Console that I think is important, is keeping all your HTML improvements up. The titles and stuff are all unduped, and I think that's part of a maintenance on the site that Google cares about.
I'll buy that.
Yeah, it's I would say that Yoast is not my biggest frustration, but it's up there. Let's put it that way. In terms of site building issues or site maintenance issues, there's others.
I had tested all-in-one SEO probably 10 years ago when it was relatively new. And at the time, I tested about 3 different ones, and I decided that Yoast was the direction I was going to go in. Recently, I went back and looked at all-in-one again, and they have made some fantastic improvements. I don't know when, but it's just black and white difference between what it used to be, very basic and not terribly versatile, and now it's kicking some butt. I'm impressed.
What I really liked about it, Doc, was it's putting the main entity and the parts of a page. It's putting that kind of markup in the page for you too.
Yeah. And they're giving you a lot of control. They're really letting you really handle a lot of settings in all-in-one.
Yeah. And like I said, the duplicate titles and is a big one for me.
Yeah. Is that the plugin that I remember one that I was dealing with on a customer site where I put up a new post, and I know that WordPress, for instance, if you use a focus keyword on Yoast, that if you've used that focus keyword before, it'll flag you. But there was one where if you put up a title, and is a title you would use before, it would flag you. This was the WordPress core that was doing it. I'm pretty sure, or it might have been all in one, because I know it didn't have Yoast on it. It might have been all in one.
Yeah, I think all-in-one has an option for that you tick
Okay.
the box.
Yeah, that's a nice little feature for somebody that, especially if you're using, God forbid, tags. But you know, when you put up a duplicate title, that can definitely be detrimental in a hurry.
And here's the thing: you talk about the site maps, right? And a lot of people have Yoast just for that reason, is for the site map, and it doesn't even do a good one. So that kind of makes me wonder. But what I do monthly, right? And this is a service I provide to my clients, and that it's part of my service. If they don't want that, then I'll probably think twice about taking them on, because I think it's that important. Every month, I index the site with Screaming Frog, submit a new sitemap, go to Google Search Console, and go through all the settings, i.e., there's very few 404s on the sites that I manage. There's no, all that stuff is perfect. And here's what I found. In most cases, about 92% of the pages I submit through my sitemap are indexed.
You do a fetch and render, or to do that?
Fetch and render?
You shouldn't
I
have
can't
to.
remember. What's the term? Well, so how do you get them indexed in GSC when you do that?
You just submit a sitemap, and that'll be enough.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
I also, the part I like about it most is before you submit it, you can test it.
Yeah. Okay. So I thought you were talking about those as two separate things, submitting and indexing. But I see what you mean. You upload the new sitemap, or
I have noticed too that if you've got a sitemap that had a lot of problems in it, let's say 404s, and if they're finding a lot of problems in your sitemap, you'll start seeing that, you're saying you're hitting 92%, which is a decent number. You'll start seeing that continuously fall off. And I saw one site the other day, a prospect brought a site to me. They had 117 submitted, and they had 30 indexed. They'll just, if you're this trashy, we're not even going to bother with you,
That's, there could be many reasons why they don't index a page, right? Why you submit it and they reject it, right? It could be that they just don't find the page valuable. Correct, Bill?
Right.
So the problem I have more than anything else in terms of 404s, and this isn't solved by submitting a new sitemap, is where they come up with all these 404s that are links from other sites that never existed on the client side. And most of them are, at least as far as I know, they never existed. And they're almost all porn references or stuff like that.
Not. You're saying that Google is attributing these links to being on your site?
It sounds like referral spam.
Well, maybe. So that's another. Well, okay. So what I'm talking about is where I've submitted a perfectly good sitemap, and it's been tested and found to be accurate. And at the same time, if you go to what's it called, crawl errors, or I forget what it is, where they report 410s and 404s, there are. Well, when I first took this client on and rebuilt their site, there were like 6,000 404s. And they were almost all,
they were hacked.
They may have been
at one time. You know what the hint is? Porn sites.
Well, it could well be, because this is a very, very old company and they've had many websites. But I guess my point is that when you, a few moments ago, Terry, you said something about submitting a site map, and it almost sounded like you were speaking of that as in terms of one way to keep down the number of 404. I would say that that's not.
No.
That's not. Well, that's apparently that's not what you meant.
I'm sorry.
Well, so it almost sounded like you were saying that that was one way to solve the problem of having 404s or a lot of 404s. I did not think you meant that.
No, that's okay. Definite, because you shouldn't have 404s in a site map.
Well, obviously, well, yes.
Things you get errors for.
Well, when I submit a site map and test it, and it tests 100% okay, I can still have in that other section of GSC, I can have many 404s that it reports to me, because it's finding links elsewhere that refer to non-existent pages, all of which seem to have to do with lesbian dwarfs or something, you know, in French, you know. I don't know. Oh man,
naturally.
That stuff is disgusting.
I would almost say for sure that site is being hacked at some time, and quite often you can't even find the pages.
Well, so the site I'm thinking of in particular, it almost certainly was. When they came to me, it had a malware error action, and I just built a brand new site for them and moved over the content that was valuable and worthwhile keeping, and onto a completely new server, a new site, new WordPress instance, and all that. Then I just notified Google that we had done that, and the malware manual action came off right away, of course. But I mean, it took months to fight down the 6,000 plus 404 listing or errors that it was reporting down to some manageable number. New ones keep cropping up.
Those 404s will continue to reappear for at least a couple of years.
Yeah, it's been about 2, 3 so far years, and
they're in some shard someplace, and they're going to show up in the index, and they're going to keep recurring even after you clear them, even after they cease to exist, because somewhere along the line, some shard is holding a link to that page, and it's going to get tied to your account, and it's going to pop up as a new 404. I think that's probably the only reason that they do not hold 404s against us, because they know that they can't be cleaned up that readily.
So, yeah, but Google never removes any link from their index. They keep track of them all, so that's why it's hard to get rid of that stuff.
So if we say, well, Google doesn't really hold that against us, well, then why even bother trying to get rid of them?
A lot of stuff with Google, it's that you're making an effort means something to them.
Fair enough.
You know, user experience. I mean, if I would say that if you were 100% certain that no user could ever encounter that 404, then you might be safe to just ignore them. But I don't think we can ever be 100% certain. So it just drives me up the wall when I go into GSC and I see I've got 316 404s. Jesus, I got to fix that, because I won't sleep until I do.
So I don't know what's going on right now. This reminded me of something I encountered last week. I was doing the month-end GSC review. So I'm going through the 404s, and I'm seeing all these pages that I had 301. And yeah, 301. And when I click the link in the data they give you, it took me to the 301 page. However, it was in the HTML improvements, it was saying I had a duplicate title between the page that was 301 and the new page.
Oh, Lord.
Which they do have the same titles, but the pages were changed.
Yeah, that's
It was, I couldn't figure that one out.
that's got to be a glitch. Yeah,
I just figured, oh, they're having a bad day.
I can picture the Google bug triage meeting where that came up and somebody said, no, nobody's ever going to run into that.
Well, not too many people get that stuff.
somebody in the back of the room said, "Wait a minute, what about Terry Van Horn?"
Yeah. Terry will never notice it. Oh, jeez. That's one of those.
I know all the pages, right? It was a legacy page. As soon as I saw it, like this site went from the old days where you had a directory and all the URLs was HTML, right? So you had a directory that you put everything into called HTML.
That's one of those where somebody will say, yeah, it's a reproducible bona fide critter, but it's like a priority 6, severity 9.
Oh, it's probably fixed by now. Someone realized that.
Maybe, I don't know.
Well, that one is something that would affect rankings, because what it was basically doing was taking the old page. It could have been indexing the old page for all I know, or thinking it was indexing the old page. It was a real lot. I'm going to take a quick look again at the end of the month when I do the review again.
Still there, right about it.
Oh, yeah, I'll definitely mention.
Was that a recent thing? Was that last month, Terry?
Yeah, 27th.
Wow. Yeah, I'd like to hear about that too. If that's still happening, because that's got some potential issues.
Also, that particular thing, I always do it on the same day of the month. It gets me on a schedule, you know. Yeah. I'm a little retarded, so you know.
That's important at our age, buddy.
Yeah. The more help we can get, the better, right?
Yes.
For sure.
But hey, our microphones work. You got to admit that. So.
Yeah. I got 2 cables here too, and a microphone.
Ooh. I think there's only one of us normally on this chat that has a green screen, though. I have green screen envy.
I'm still envious of that, yeah. I'd be having way too much fun with that if I did have one, so I'd probably just as well.
I confess, I've actually looked them up on Amazon and then went...
Oh, I did too. I've even considered building my own screen.
Oh, you can do that. He does it with software.
I wondered about that. So he's not really using a green screen at all?
No, he's got software.
That would be
he'll let you know who it is, Tim, if you ask him.
I'll ask him.
Usually pretty approachable.
Yeah.
I just assumed he had hung a screen back there.
I thought so too.
Yeah.
No, it's the software.
Okay.
It's green fabric and software.
Oh, so he does have a screen hung behind him. The green fabric, yeah.
Right.
Oh, that's what I thought. Yeah, okay.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
I thought Terry was
just using software.
I was just going to build myself a little frame and stretch some green felt back there, and
so I'm a little confused. I thought he had a green, well, you know, something like that, some green screen behind him physically, but Terry's saying no, it's all software.
That's what he told me.
Oh, that's interesting.
And it's green fabric, right?
Yeah, what is being projected behind him is the software, but what is cutting everything that is literally behind him out of the image is the green screen.
That's what I thought.
And it kills everything that's green. So you end up just with Ammon, and then it superimposes his image over whatever the software he selects.
Right. So you don't wear green clothes.
Yeah, or you'll just be a floating head.
I'd look like I was full of holes. Well, you know, if Ammon would show up for Bill and Ammon's hangout, we could ask him.
He's probably out walkabout with his. He's been doing some of those the last couple of days.
So you should be able to do that with just a background image on the on the video. That's how you can do that with Camtasia, a lot of programs.
I'm too cheap to buy Camtasia.
Yeah, that's some pricey stuff there for my taste.
Yeah, it's paid for itself with me 10 times
I
over.
bet it has. I'm sure you're right. I'm just cheap. I'm thrifty.
He's lazy and cheap, Terry.
Well, it takes a lot of
And
hours.
old. Don't forget old.
Got to get them all in there.
Yeah. Man.
I learned a lot using it too. So
I bet you did. That's a good idea. That's a good point. I've been wanting to start making some videos for my own purposes for my site, and I should probably break down and get it. Does it run on Windows as well as a PC?
yeah,
Okay.
Windows and PC. You mean?
What I meant was Windows and a Mac. Well, I'm sorry. Yeah. So many of these nice packages, graphic and artistic, only run on a Mac. It drives me crazy.
Yeah.
I've never ever had a Mac. Never needed one.
For musicians, it's even worse. Most of the good ones only run on Mac.
Yeah.
I have brothers that like to play, and they say that all the time because they don't want to buy Macs. So.
Well, don't feel too bad about being cheap, Tim, because I'm still running on Photoshop 7.0. So.
Well, I can do better than that.
Geez, you're rich, man. I got to use free stuff. Paint.net. That's
I use GIMP.
Better than Photoshop.
I use GIMP, and I don't really do graphic design per se. I just manipulate images. So that's GIMP works for that. So.
GIMP, the original logo for Google was designed in GIMP.
Was it really?
Yeah. Good they were working on putting the site together, and Sergey Brin pulled that GIMP and started playing with it, and came out with that multicolored logo.
Wow. I had friends that went to Yahoo, and that was kind of like, man, you really had made it in software if you left Borland and places like that, or Microsoft, and went to Yahoo. And then Google came along and just sort of like swept the decks.
Yep.
Now, with Camtasia, since we're talking about this, with Camtasia, can you easily do something like have a video of your screen and superimpose a little inlet vignette of yourself with
a cameo type thing?
Definitely. It records the screen, and then you record the screen, right? Then when you're done recording, you can bring it into Camtasia again and edit anything in that screen. You can add text, whatever you want.
Okay.
It's, anytime you want some help with that, Tim.
Thanks.
Like when I first started, you know how I made most of the videos? I made a PowerPoint presentation, pulled it in, and it became a video, just talked over it.
Yeah, actually, the online and live training site that I've been building for all this time and finished for my client that does that business. That's how he makes his online video training. He does exactly that and then saves them as MP4s. So.
Yeah, now you see Camtasia, you can plug that right into PowerPoint.
If he has to spend anything to do that, he probably won't do it. But interesting.
Camtasia is not as expensive as I thought it was.
Really?
Oh no, it's dirt cheap, and it's not a yearly thing either.
It's a one time, huh?
Yeah.
Let's see.
I've only paid them once, Doc.
$249. That's nothing.
That's a whole lot less than I expected to see.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Photoshop ain't that damn cheap, I'll tell you that.
Oh, just one part of it.
I've never used Photoshop.
The part that Dave uses for editing is over $1,000, and that all it does is edit video and audio and video.
The same company does Snagit too, which I use for screenshots.
They were also screencasts. Remember that?
Oh yeah.
Where you could do the online video? They own that too. That's how I originally found Camtasia.
Yeah.
And then Danny Thies has been using it for years.
I use Snagit for audits often.
Oh yeah. Love
Yeah.
Snagit.
Now, Snagit became Jing, and that's what I have.
It became what?
Jing. It's
Jing.
called Jing now. Works
Jing.
really well.
Yeah.
I have Snagit. It's still called Snagit.
Okay. But you can if you were to try and update it, it would turn it into Jing. Free also.
I have the latest updated version of Snagit.
Okay.
It's not called Jing.
Okay.
I'm looking at it right now. It says it's called Snagit. So, interesting.
I had it and I had to change it.
Huh.
Anyway.
Well, oh, actually, you know what? I think so. I'm looking at the knowledge panel for Snagit,
Yeah.
and then at the bottom where it says people also search for, it shows Camtasia, Mac OS. That's interesting, and Jing. So Jing's a separate product, I think.
Holy crap. Snagit 2018. $939.51.
Yeah, I can tell you, I never bought that.
No,
No,
I never
no.
paid that much for Snagit.
I'm saying $49.95.
Yeah, I think I paid
Right.
like 45,
I
50
never
bucks.
paid anything for it.
I've paid for it. I've paid for a couple of updates too.
Oh yeah,
The updates are 235 bucks a pop.
we
No,
must be
they're
seeing-
around $50.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the 1 year maintenance. It's 235. Oh. They're proud of their stuff. They're a lot prouder of their stuff than I am of mine. I tell you that.
for Snagit. I don't understand because I'm looking at a screen right now that says Snagit 2018 quantity 1 $49.95 1 year maintenance $12.49.
I think JP's trying to talk. Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
yeah. So her microphone works,
Maybe
but her
Snagit
face-
2018 is something different. That's what I just spotted there.
Maybe that could be. That
Well, that's
could be.
$900 and some dollars. I don't think so, Tim.
Well, I'm looking at a site called TechSmith and their store, so maybe they have different pricing there, or
That's where I am. Is on TechSmith. I just dropped a link in the chat.
TechSmith makes them all.
Right.
Okay, well, let's see. I'll drop this
Camtasia,
link.
Snagit.
Jing.
I don't know what Jing is still.
Oh, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Well,
I should look into it.
okay, so
It would be a first if I was wrong, right?
Yeah.
this is really interesting. So, Doc, I just clicked on your link, and it takes me to exactly the page that I was seeing before, where it's $49.95.
Okay, I'm looking now to see if maybe they've geodetected me and they're giving me the price of $939.51 in pesos.
Pesos mexicanos.
Unfortunately, that's not an option that they offer to change your location or your currency. So
Dinero mexicano. Queremos pesos.
that's got to be pesos. Yeah, that would be about 50 bucks.
Yeah.
Okay, I feel better. That about gave me chest pains there.
Are you going to go rethink all your most recent software decisions now?
No kidding.
Oh my. Well, today we've learned to double check our pricing.
Hmm.
Stuff.
I remember I used to buy software in CDs, and
CDs, you're
and
cutting edge, man. I used to buy them in floppies,
floppies.
5 1/4 floppy,
And
none of this
spend
3.5
spend
inch.
hours installing them. Yeah.
Oh, you have no idea. I worked at software companies where we sold them on 3.5s, and before that, 5 1/4s.
Yep.
And half of the job of the guy running the build and the install process was just double checking every bloody time we did a new build, making sure that all the CDs or diskettes or whatever were written out correctly and would install correctly. What a thankless job. And if you broke the build by checking in bad code, yeah, it was no bueno. You were in big trouble.
Just update your resume.
Well, it wasn't quite that bad, but nobody was your friend for a while. Oh God, I remember the last version of Paradox or DOS that I ever installed. Then it was right before I joined Borland. It was something like 15 3.5-inch diskettes.
Oh yeah.
It was
Uh-huh.
crazy.
Well, I remember. I think the relatively, a more recent one was Windows 3.1.1 for work groups, and that was actually on 3.5s, and it was like 8 diskettes.
Oh.
That was the first network me and my brother installed.
3.1.1, yeah. That was a good build. It was a damn
I
good
had to
build.
wait a long time for it, though.
We never messed with that, but we did use Novell in my office back in the days. That was fun. That was interesting.
A child who has never heard a dial tone. That is scary, JD.
Oh my
Yep.
gosh! Wow.
Let's not go. We're going to make ourselves feel really bad here if we start thinking of things that our kids would turn their heads like a puppy at. What's that?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
My granny had a crank one when I was a kid.
Hey, don't laugh. We literally had one of those in the kitchen. The little wooden thing on the wall. You took it out, you crank it up. Party line.
Yeah,
Grew up with
that
one.
was in the country. My grandmother.
And you didn't even have to ring. You could just pick it up and listen in on the neighbors.
yes,
That was
we did.
entertaining.
And as time goes on, entire bodies of jokes or inventories of jokes go out of meaning. Like there used to be a lot of good ones you could tell about completely automated processes, and you didn't need to worry because nothing could possibly go wrong. Go wrong.
Yeah.
Nobody understands why that's funny now if they're young. Nobody plays vinyl anymore.
Oh, yeah.
Or if they do, it's probably on a player that would never skip. So.
Right. A broken record is a outdated metaphor.
Yeah, that's right. It really is.
Outdated metaphor. Outdated metaphor.
Exactly.
I see what you did there, Bill.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Well, what else can we mess up today? Let's see. Well, we haven't talked about religion yet. Let's see. We've almost had a glancing blow with politics. Actually, you know what? Speaking of GDPR, let me drag us back to that again for a minute. I have a growing number of my clients saying, dude, I don't know about getting a new privacy policy. And my attorney, who's a small business attorney, he says, you need a specialist. Where do I go? So if anyone has go-to ideas for, where to send small business clients for a decent updated privacy policy, that would be helpful.
Well, the problem is, Tim, that it is far more than a privacy policy.
Well, I know, but it's,
that is such a tiny percentage of what it is.
What you want, whatever you want to call the page or set of pages.
No, it's actually internal stuff. Having the policy and living up to it is a small portion of compliance with GDPR, because you have to be able to show that you have a written, established policy and procedure for how you handle things like request for modification or deletion, for providing copies, for training your people, for ensuring that only the right people are allowed to see only the certain aspects of data that they need to see performance of their job. And you got to have all this documentation. That's where the real hair pulling comes in. Putting up and adhering to a policy for privacy is relatively simple. It really is. And WordPress now, right out of the box in the core, gives you the ability to download the private information and delete the private information very easy. That's the sweet addition that they just made.
I agree.
But if the supervising authority ever asks you and said, we got a claim, you may be sitting in Des Moines working a local market, and some clown in Berlin accesses your site and raises a complaint to his supervising authority, you're going to get served. And you're going to have to show them all this documentation and policies and procedures. And that's where the risk and liability comes in. Yeah. And that's what, the privacy policy, cookie policy is window dressing. It's not going to address the issue.
So we're kind of coming up to the top hour of the hour, so maybe I shouldn't have raised this issue again. But I'll say it again. There's no small business in America that can really do all that stuff.
Pretty much true. I'm sure there might be some exceptions, but yeah, pretty much true.
And that's why it wasn't made a law in the United States.
Oh, but it's becoming that way. Now, I haven't read the California Act. Have you?
I have not read it yet, no.
So I don't know if it's a complete...
No, I gagged when I read that he had signed the law into effect, and I stopped at that point. I did see a write-up saying that it was all but a carbon copy of GDPR in most regards.
That's on that too.
That's kind of depressing.
And pretty much well, no, I won't go into politics. My speculation is that it's pretty much a carbon copy. So this is kind of like other laws that get signed when nobody has actually read them all the way through. That's very possibly what we have here.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, I didn't mean to end us on a depressing note. Gosh, I'm sorry. Jeez. I'm reading what JD wrote.
Yeah, she's trying to. I'm in suspense. I can't. I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop here.
Oh my gosh. Well, Bill and JD have stuff in common. She is trained as a patent, trademark, and IP legal secretary, and Bill is the patent researcher, lawyer in the group. I'm sorry, you're not really a lawyer, are you?
Yes, he is.
I'm not a member of the bar. No,
I didn't think so. Yeah, I didn't.
I'm a member of 4 different bars. One right down the corner here.
I'm pretty careful not to call people lawyers if they don't want to be one.
One stool has my name carved on the back. So.
And I worked for a court for 14 years. I got cured of a desire to be a lawyer.
Yeah. I know you
that would do it.
Those judges.
I can tell you, in Canada, they have given the interwebs a jurisdiction. The jurisdiction is where the server, the site is hosted on. So if you're in Canada, you're seen to be in Canada. If you're hosted in the States, the transaction is deemed to have happened in the United States.
Now, I wonder what happens if somebody like me gets a friend to let me borrow his street address in London so that I can get a UK server, host. I'm not in the UK. The host is. My guess is that the host is going to be held liable because they're supposedly under their ICANN restrictions. They're not allowed to sell to anybody outside the UK. But if it's an issue that has to deal with the management of the site and private information, you can't very realistically enforce against them for that.
This makes me tired. It makes me want to go to sleep and wake up when it's all over.
If you were incorporated in the UK, you'd be cool. You can get get one then.
So the law doesn't always catch up to technology too quickly. And what it does really strange, twisted things with it. Do you remember when you used to be able to download Internet Explorer 128K edition? It used to be illegal to download that in Canada because it was classified as a munition. It was encrypted.
I've
Oh my
never
gosh.
heard that.
Right.
Wow.
That's funny. That's hilarious.
That's, well, so I say this a lot, but now I can modify it. A lot of the time I say our technology advances more quickly than our wisdom, but now I can say more quickly than our laws, apparently. So,
Right. It's also like Google Maps isn't allowed to use latitude and longitude in China because they're all also classified as a munition.
wow.
Good Lord. I saw something kind of branching off to a different topic. I saw something just I don't know, maybe a couple months ago that was it was a blog post from somebody that most of us know. I can't remember now who the guy was, but he was talking about the advancement of technology. And basically what he did is he charted the velocity of technological advances from like 1920 to date. And the rate at which it's accelerating, not just where we've gotten to from where we were, but the rate of acceleration is increasing dramatically. And that's the whole chart was acceleration. So, we're going to have flying cars by 1970. Yeah, okay, fine. We look at things now, and we tend to see things from within our own bubble. Based upon my experience, I expect this is going to happen in the next 10 years. And in reality, it's probably going to be closer to 2. 10 years ago, it might have happened in 10 years. Today, it's probably going to happen in 2 or 3. And 10 years from now, things that took 10 years now would probably take 6 months, because it's accelerating dramatically. And it's it's exciting, and it's also kind of scary because sociologically, we're not handling all this technology very well. Legally, we're not handling it well at all.
Yeah.
Even from medical standpoint, between obesity, health issues caused by lack of exercise, kids no longer want to go out and be in the sun. They want to sit down at their PlayStation. Okay, there's so many trickle down effects to all this that we're just not adapting to quickly enough. And passing laws to handle privacy should have been a major concern early on. But
does anyone remember Gordon Moore and Moore's Law?
Yeah.
Boy, we've so far exceeded that now.
Yeah, it's more like 2 years, not 4.
Wow. Well, so next year we'll all be having this conversation from our flying cars. Is that what you're telling us, Doc?
I think so.
I think I'll just be happy if I can get a cell phone. Oh, wait, big news. Last week I didn't own one of these things.
And now,
I actually got me an iPhone.
Ooh.
I am being dragged kicking and screaming into the 20th century, and down the road at some point I may join y'all on the 21st.
This is next, Doc. This comes very quickly.
I don't even own a wristwatch, man. If I want to know what time it is, I just look at my new iPhone.
And then these come after that. Wait a minute. What version of the iPhone did you get?
It's used. It's 4S.
I still have one of those. Actually, I have a 4.
I am being drugged into the present, but at a very slow pace.
So you still have a headphone jack on the bottom of your new iPhone?
Oh, yeah.
Those are the best.
As long as my brother has a phone, I have no need.
And the first thing I did is I got one of those drop protectors to wrap around it. It's got all kinds of rubber on it.
Same here. Oh, you need one of these. This is one of those little things. Believe it or not, these are actually very handy.
The magnetic.
No, it's not. They stick on, but they're actually the adhesive lets you move it around if you want. But it's a little button that allows you to pop out and hold it like that. It turns out that even though it looks awkward, they're incredibly useful.
A very short selfie stick.
They stand up too. I watch a lot of TV on my phone, and
I bet you're taking selfies all the time, Tim. Come on.
No, I'm not a selfie guy.
Only in the bathroom.
But all right, there's TMI. But you can get that like for $6 on Amazon, and it's actually very handy.
So I got one of these to watch TV on
There you
my
go.
Can't see
phone.
what it is.
My phone. It's a stand.
Oh, the stand. Okay, yeah,
Yeah, like that.
got it. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, the only time I use a phone is when I'm looking at a site. Otherwise, I'm strictly landline guy. If I'm going out, I'm not available. I'm not going to take your call. I don't
I-
want.
I
We
haven't
got
had
rid of our-
haven't had a landline in the house in over 10 years.
We're
Yeah,
the
I
same way.
found out the problem with that the other day. We lost all our internet connection cable
It can happen.
and my telephone that goes through the internet. First time I realized that when your internet goes down, you have no phone to phone them and complain about the internet.
That's the one. That's the one virtue, really, of the landlines is they almost never go out. They can,
Right.
but it's
Very
very
true.
rare. But
And your phone can act as a hotspot
yeah,
that you can run your desktop computer from
if you have
if you need to.
if you have signal for your phone, yeah, that's
Right.
We had a period here. When did we have that big, massive power loss in San Diego, Doc? Was it like 8 years ago?
Yeah,
All
6
over
or 7 at
Southern
least.
California?
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
was-
it's been at least that long.
And I think we lost cell signal then, didn't we?
Oh, yeah.
Sure we did.
Oh, yeah. Early on.
Um,
Oh, is that the brownout where most of North America was browned out?
well, it was San Diego County, and I don't know where else, but it was certainly all over the
Up
county.
into Orange County, even. Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah, it was probably about 30% of the state went dark.
There's no power and no local telephone service. I'm trying to figure out why this was. I could still send text messages with, I guess I must have, maybe the LTE signal worked or something, because I was texting or emailing my relatives in Nebraska or someplace that we were okay, but it was weird, very weird. So the landlines have some virtue, but I haven't had one for at least 10 years. So.
Yeah.
The phone service that I got when I moved out here was voice over internet protocol. It wasn't a plain old copper wire.
Yeah. I got the number that I use is a Skype number that I got right after they first came out.
Yeah.
And I got a second one later for Australia, but you know, I got that Skype number way back when, and we use it, and the quality is great. It's better than the Skype chat in terms of lag and reliability. But like you say, you know, if you lose your internet, now that's more my weakness is this Taco ISP I live on. My carrier goes out all the time.
So we've got to close down the show for today. Thank you, everybody. Now, hit the stop broadcast button.
And then we continue in the green room.
Right. We're sorry you couldn't have.
Yeah.
Hit,
Maybe.
okay, still alive.